What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique. I'm a fight guy, Forbes contributor, and I also write for Heavy.com. And I am here with my fellow fight guy, fellow Forbes contributor, and Boxing Manager of the Year candidate, Peter Kahn. How you doing today, Peter?
Happy Memorial Day.
Thanks, and same to you. And I want to send a respect and salute out to every veteran who has passed away and lost their life, whether it was in combat, whether it was after, whatever. Everybody I know has somebody probably in their family that can relate on one way or the other. So definitely sending love and respect to those people on this day. We are powered by Fight TV and presented by Bet Online. And if you have not yet subscribed to us on YouTube, you need to do that right now. You need to make sure that you throw a 1, 2, just the one, actually, the one will get it done, to the subscribe button. Also click that notifications bell so that you'll know when new videos are dropping. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into round one.
So Brian, hearing Conor McGregor's name
all the time.
Where is Conor McGregor, by the way? But is he in Ireland? Where is he? Does anybody
He's in
know where
Ireland. I don't think anybody can leave yet.
Right. So Kamaru Usman and Conor McGregor have had their names in the same sentence recently. And this comes off a tweet that we saw based on a report, I guess, with Brett Okamoto. But basically, ESPN MMA says if he's not fighting Masvidal, Usman's team wants McGregor. And basically, if George Masvidal pursues a rematch with Nate Diaz over a Kamaru Usman title fight, Usman's manager, Ali Abdelaziz, tells Brett Okamoto that they'll ask the UFC to offer the 170-pound title shot to Conor McGregor. So I want to know what you think about that.
You know what? I think there's a couple things that come to me when I see that. First and foremost, the prevailing concept is nobody is afraid of Conor McGregor anymore.
Right.
When you have the champion, generally the way it goes is a challenger, a hungry challenger hunts the champion.
Mm-hmm.
Kamaru Usman knows what the payday is that's associated with fighting Conor McGregor, even though Conor McGregor is not the champion, never been a champion at 170 pounds, which is where Usman holds his title. But he's like, you, no, I want you, bro. You come here. You do all the talking. You say all of the stuff. You command the biggest paychecks. I want you. Come here.
Right.
So that's pretty interesting to me.
Well, look, I asked you a week ago when we were talking, and you were leading up to UFC 249 and the fight night shows. I said, who's the biggest name in the UFC?
Yeah.
And you said still Conor.
Yep.
And look, I mean, at a day and age where guys are trying to chase down big fights, you know, I guess at the end of the day, getting paid is the key for a lot of these guys. So I have two questions for you. Number one, does anyone want to see another Nate Diaz fight? Number two, which fight would you rather see if there was an option between Usman and
Conor?
Conor, yeah.
Well, honestly, a lot of people still would love to see Nate Diaz fight. I personally consider Nate Diaz probably to be the most overrated mixed martial artist in the history of the sport. That's just me. I don't know another sport where a guy with 0.625 win percentage over his entire career could be considered on the same level that what Nate Diaz is considered by so many people. And I know I'm going to get all kinds of hate comments from, the Diaz mites. But it's true. I mean, the dude, if look at his record, look at who he's lost to. He does have obviously some big wins. He beat Conor. You know, that was a significant victory.
Made him tap.
Of course. Made him tap, which is pretty much every time Conor's ever lost, that's how he loses. He taps. That's why Khabib calls him a tapper. He's tapped literally at every single weight class he's ever fought at.
Clever.
So, you know, it just is what it is. So, but all of that said, Nate Diaz is still a major draw. People love him. It is about his persona and all of those things. I actually did an interview with Paul Heyman once, and I asked him if there was somebody in mixed martial arts that you thought, or people in mixed martial arts that you thought would do great in WWE. The second name out of his mouth after Chael Sonnen was the Diaz brothers. And because it's about persona. And don't get me wrong, Nate can fight. Nate's a fantastic boxer. He has world-class Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's not great with defense, which is why he tends to lose the fights that he loses. But doesn't check leg kicks, too tough for it. But meanwhile, they score. And he, like I said, he eats a lot of shots. Nate Diaz doesn't have great striking defense. His defense is, I'm gonna hit you back.
Right.
And he has a crowd-pleasing fighting style and all that. So the answer to that first question, yes, there are people who would like to see Nate Diaz, a ton of people. To answer your second question, for me personally, I would rather see Kamaru Usman, Conor McGregor, because I am a guy who I am motivated by championships and watching people compete for championships. I know we're getting into a place where that is not as valued in all combat sports. And I think it's a real shame. I think this whole BMF belt is some big trash, and the UFC should have never allowed that in. I think the fact that it's even a discussion about Jorge Masvidal foregoing a championship bout for a rematch with Nate Diaz, even the fact that that's even a conversation. And the reason why this came about is because Masvidal was on Twitter literally saying, let's run it back, knowing that he has an opportunity to fight for a title. He's still saying, forget that. I'd rather get this check and fight Nate Diaz for a BMF belt.
So
trash.
Didn't Masvidal and Usman have that encounter on Radio Road during the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, to put it like this, every single prominent welterweight just about has had some level of exchange with everybody. Right. I don't care who it is. Kamaru Usman, Kobe Covington have gotten into it. Kamaru Usman, Conor McGregor have traded words. Kamaru Usman, Jorge Masvidal, Covington. It's part of the game. It's not even just a part of the game. It's a part of the game, but it is commonplace in the welterweight division. It's a lot of that's going on. So
listening to you talk about Nate Diaz and sort of just explaining his career and like where he fits in the ecosystem, I couldn't help but think of Arturo Gatti. And, from, like you said, from a competition standpoint, I mean,
I give him more respect as a talent than Gatti.
Really?
Yeah, he's more talented than Gatti. I mean, Arturo Gatti would never have beaten the equivalent of Conor McGregor in his sport. And the equivalent of Conor McGregor in boxing is not Floyd Mayweather, despite what some people may believe. It's not. He's not that elite. But even for who Conor is, Arturo Gatti would have never beaten that guy either. So, so who
would you compare Nate Diaz then in boxing?
If you were to compare him to somebody in boxing, man, that's a really good question.
But you know what I'm saying? Based on how you described him, big fan base, loyal fan base, very proficient in jiu-jitsu, defense, suspect, too tough to check kicks and defend himself. Always shows a lot of blood. Always has something interesting to say. Just like Arturo was the human highlight reel.
Man, the one name that just popped in my head was Nigel Benn.
Why?
Nigel Benn had, even though he was this villain, he had a
Dark Destroyer.
Yeah, he had this whole kind of presence about him that even though he lost or whatever, and I think Nigel Benn might have 4 knockout victories on his record where he was knocked down and got up to stop a guy, which is like the percentages on that are low.
I think he was knocked out of the ring during the McClellan fight.
Yeah, right. I think he might have
through the ropes.
Through the ropes and fell out. Right. But I think there were like 3 other fights where Ben was dropped, got up, and won by knockout.
Right.
So it's not an apples to apples comparison, but his name is the first one. So what I'm talking about is somebody who is extremely imperfect, but still really good. And they're, as much as their talent accounts for their rep, also it's their persona. And so as I'm thinking, like James Toney's too good to be Nate Diaz.
Right.
But it's similar. But I think he's too good to be Nate Diaz. But I
like Nate Diaz. I just like the way I just like his whole life. It's just a lifestyle thing with him.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I put it like this. I appreciate Nate Diaz's talent. I do.
Yeah.
But I don't appreciate the fact that he gets more respect than some guys who have had better careers.
Okay.
That's what I don't like.
Gotcha.
You know. So,
but that's the fans' fault.
It is.
It's not Nate's fault.
No, I mean, if I was Nate, I'd be doing the same thing he's doing.
But I just think that's who he is.
I mean, I'm saying what I'm saying.
That comes so natural.
I be walking around telling people I'm the baddest MFer, even though I'm 22-11 or whatever, right.
But that's what's great about it. That's who he is.
Yeah, it's just
he's like the epitome. He's the personification of a fighter.
And I feel that. But what I always like to maintain, and I guess some people don't like this is still a sport. And while I understand that there's a certain amount of toughness that is required, it's still a sport. And I like the school of thought that says the people who win the most, the people who win the championships deserve the love, not the people who can make me believe their comic book persona the best. And so Nate has effectively made you forget how many times he loses because he walks around blood on his face.
How many of those 11 losses do you feel could have gone either way, in your opinion? If you even have seen them all 11 losses.
The Conor McGregor loss definitely could have gone either way. You know, because he won the first fight, made him tap the first fight. The second fight could have easily been.
Conor came on, or Diaz came on late, right?
Well, no. Well, it was up and down. It was up and down. They both of them had moments, you know, and it was a majority decision. He lost unanimous decision to Rafael dos Anjos. That couldn't have gone either way. Got knocked out by Josh Thompson. That obviously couldn't have gone either way. I thought he got thoroughly outfought by Benson Henderson. I didn't think that could have gone either way. He fought Rory McDonald. Rory McDonald was just too big, too skilled for him. I don't think he's been. The only fight I can say, well, maybe he could have got it, is he lost a split decision to Gray Maynard, and this is back in 2010.
So let me ask you a question with your expertise. Okay. If Nate Diaz would have maybe committed himself more in preparation for some of those fights, how many of those do you think wouldn't have gone that way?
You know what? I don't even know if it's about preparation for Nate. What I think it is for Nate is that Nate is not a great athlete. Nate's a very skilled fighter.
Right.
And I think he runs into a ceiling based off of athleticism or a limitation in his athleticism. He is tall for, you know, when he fights at 155. When he fights at 170, not so much.
How tall is he?
6'1".
Really?
Long arms.
So deceiving. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, 6'1", long arms. You know, long-limbed guy, period.
Right,
you know?
It's deceiving. It doesn't, you don't think of him that tall.
Yeah, he's a pretty long guy.
What's Conor, like 5'9"?
5'9", 5'10". Huge head, huge neck, wide shoulders. You know, Conor McGregor appears to be bigger than he is when you look at him. Like when you're standing in front of him, he seems like it's almost like a thinner Mike Tyson kind of a build.
I mean, I've seen him in person once.
Yeah,
the day that he yelled, "I am boxing."
Yeah, okay.
Just like I was he was in a suit. That was the only time I ever seen him in person.
I think that was when he had FU in his suit, and it was disguised as pinstripes, but it was really just FU. Repeatedly.
Well, no, this was at the Michael Conlon pro debut at the theater, the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden.
Yes.
And he walked him into the ring. He was like wearing like a fur coat, and he had a suit on, but waving the Irish flag. Yeah. And then he yelled at Dan Rayfield, "I am boxing."
And Dan said, "Okay."
Well, no, Dan said he goes. Anyway, it's a whole other conversation.
I would have loved to have heard what it was, but
it's simple. I'm going to tell you. So Conor walks up to Media Row, and if you've been to the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden, you know, I don't know, maybe it's like 3,000 people. It's like a theater style venue.
It's 7,000.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, it just seems small.
I've been there several times. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to paint a picture for people that might not have been there. it's a legit theater style.
Yes.
So
that's where Professional Fighters League do their biggest shows.
Okay. So there's a stage, then the stage.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's where they have the media section, and then in front of that is the ring, and then you have the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
You have a little bit of ring.
It used to be called the Felt Forum.
Right.
Yeah, that's where the NBA draft used to be.
So they have that little seating. So I was on ringside, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like right there at ringside, like in the corral.
Mm-hmm.
And then he walks over to the media section. He goes, who's the boxing guy? So Dan Rayford goes, I'm the boxing guy. And then McGregor goes, I am boxing. It was a funny moment.
Dan should have said, never heard of you.
Yeah. But it was just, but anyway, that's the only time I saw it. I was asking you because it's just deceiving sometimes.
Yeah.
With some of the fighters, you know what I mean? So I didn't realize that Diaz was 6'1".
Yeah, he's a tall guy. He's a tall guy. But yeah, I mean, I think that's where my kind of is towards Diaz's impact, is I just think he takes the focus away from the championships. And I think he does that purposely to keep himself relevant because he's not a championship contender. And it works.
One more question for you.
Yes.
Masvidal.
Yes.
Well, do you think, obviously, he's a guy that you can argue as well that the record isn't stellar.
No, right.
Right? And his win against, Ben Askren?
Yes.
Right? Woo. Okay. Put all of a sudden it was a viral moment.
Yes.
It put him on the mainstream radar. He now owns a UFC record that probably won't be beaten. And if it is, it's going to take some time.
I can't imagine how.
Right. Because people would have to put themselves out there to become the new record.
Yeah, I just don't imagine how you can beat somebody faster than 5 seconds.
So, right?
Mm-hmm.
To that point, what I'm asking you is, would you consider him in that same boat as Nate Diaz, where the name's now much bigger than the talent?
You know what? I don't. I think Masvidal is.
But you see where I'm going with the question, right?
I see where you're going, but what I look at is the people that Masvidal has beaten. And the question that you asked, how many of those fights could have gone either way, either way of the losses? I can tell you that I've watched Masvidal lose super close decisions at least 5 times.
Okay.
I'm talking about stuff that I was like, what? He lost? No way he lost. And so he actually adapted the way that he fought. Around about 2016-17, he was like, you know what? I'm not getting these decisions. I'm gonna finish people. I'm gonna start finishing people. And everything changed. Everything changed, man. He's won 3 fights in a row. You look at the people that he's beat. He beat Nate Diaz in his last fight, of course, knocked out Ben Askren in 5 seconds. The fight before that, he stains Darren Till.
Right.
He had lost 2 close decisions, the 2 fights before that, but then he knocked out Donald Cerrone when that still meant something. He knocked out Jake Ellenberger. He defeated Ross Pearson. I don't think anybody doubts whether or not Masvidal is that guy. I'm gonna put it to you like this: Kamaru Usman, I believe. See, here's a problem with Nate Diaz, right?
Okay.
Because I can imagine Nate Diaz giving just about everybody a tough fight.
Right.
But I think he's going to lose. Like, I think he loses to Usman. I think he loses to Usman and creates a narrative after the fight that makes him still look like he won.
So
that's what he does.
Makes Usman look bad? Does Usman stop him?
He could. Usman could. The thing about Usman is Usman doesn't crack. And Nate Diaz has a stupid chin.
Right.
If you stop Nate Diaz, it's going to be because he's cut up and bloody and the doctor says his eye's falling out. We got to stop it.
So Masvidal, Usman, who wins?
It's a great fight. It's a great fight, man.
So what I'm saying is that taking McGregor out of the picture, then isn't that the fight that probably most people want to see?
That's the fight that makes the most sense. Okay. It makes the most sense from a sporting standpoint.
Right.
But unfortunately, that's not the only thing that's being discussed.
I enjoyed this round 1.
Hey, yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
I got a little education here. This is good.
I thought it was fantastic. Let's jump into our between the rounds. All right. So Mike Tyson.
Who?
That guy. He is everywhere. I'm talking about like he's like Savoir Faire. You remember that old cartoon? Yeah. Savoir Faire is everywhere. I just showed my age in a major way. But he's everywhere. I mean, Saturday, he's at All Elite Wrestling in Jacksonville, Florida, looking ripped. Like I'm trying to tell you, looking ripped. He is playing Enforcer, scaring off Jake the Snake Roberts, presenting Cody Rhodes with the first ever TNT championship. After that, he's on Henry Cejudo's Instagram, looking ripped. It's all kinds of stuff going on, man. It is really crazy. I gotta ask you ultimately, and I know you're gonna answer this in the championship rounds, and I even have some thoughts to give as well. What are you thinking with what is going on with Mike Tyson? Just I need an overall summary from Peter.
I'll have some answers. I have
what do you think is going on with Mike Tyson? Because I can't figure it out right now. I can't. So, but we're gonna talk about it in the championship rounds. Let's go in round 2. All right, so I want to ask you, Peter, there's always, you guys, if you guys could be privy to some of the conversations that we have that are not on air, there's a lot of a lot of things that go on in the boxing world. And like, so I get educated a lot about different things, inner workings, and like, well, you know, this is how this works. You know, this is how this works. And it's usually when I'm having a conversation with Mr. Kahn. So Peter, Peter knows a lot of stuff. And I want you to enlighten us a little bit about something. Don't go too far. Right.
So Peter knows a lot of stuff that sometimes Peter can't share.
Yes.
Because then true. Peter will not be liked too well amongst people that trust him with certain information. So I do walk this fine line of what I can share, what I can't share. But let's just talk a little bit about things that people might not know because it's just not really written about or in the news, right? So let's start with that. The Nevada State Athletic Commission has a open public hearing virtually via, I guess, Zoom, which will take place on May 27th on Wednesday. And this is basically for the people that don't know, they have a monthly meeting and it's open. It's a public forum. And in that meeting is where companies like the UFC, like Top Rank Boxing, like anybody that has something to bring up can get it onto the agenda. And whether it's requesting a license for an event, whether it's appealing a suspension, whether it's where they will present the license requests that have come in, where they'll approve them and process them. Nonetheless, they're having this on Wednesday. And I shared this with Brian. And, you know, maybe what we'll do is maybe we'll put it up after. But basically, the UFC and Top Rank are requesting very specific things. Top Rank specifically requesting approval to have dates on the 9th and 11th in Nevada, in which they're going to outline their safety protocols for COVID-19 and how they're going to go about these events and how they're going to keep both the fighters and participants and everybody safe. And then they can get the approval. Now, we've all been hearing, yes, Shakur Stevenson is fighting Felix, is it Caraballo?
Caraballo.
On the 9th. And I think it would be interesting to know that that fight's going to be at 130, maybe 130 plus 1. It's not a world title fight. It's not for Stevenson's 126 title. One of the fighters that I manage was offered that fight. He accepted. That's Andy Vensis. But, you know, Stevenson, you know, like everyone else, hasn't had the full time to prepare for this fight. And so I think that, you know, look, I mean, we get to see Shakur Stevenson. He was, if you remember, he was supposed to fight, I guess, March 14th.
Yeah. So his fight was actually that first real noticeable fight.
It's like a Tuesday, right? I believe it was Tuesday night.
Impacted by COVID. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, look, Shakur's coming back. We're going to see different fights. We're going to see 2 shows per week. I mean, look, a lot of this has been
2 shows per week. 2?
I would say there's going to be 15 shows over the course of 8 weeks. Top, why do you say? Because the first one Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So there's going to be so there's going to be 2 shows per week. You could expect no more than 5 fights on each show. So we're going to get to see a total of like 75 fights in 8 weeks.
That's fantastic. Well, see, okay, you did give me the 75 fights in 8 weeks, but I didn't comprehend it as 2 shows a week. That's fantastic.
It's going to be a lot of boxing. And so, ESPN doing this on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and having those 5 fights. So what you could assume is that we would probably see the 2 to 3 undercard fights on ESPN Plus.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to have that 2-hour broadcast on ESPN where they're going to be everything from 10-round competitive fights to 12-round championship fights.
So question.
Yes.
I think I know the answer, but I want you to tell me.
Sure.
Why not Saturdays?
I don't know. I guess Saturdays could be left open in case some other sports come back into play. I mean, I don't really know.
I was thinking UFC.
Oh, possibly, yeah.
Because ESPN.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point. Look, it could be UFC. It could also be if a modified version of something else comes back. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if what's happening with baseball and if ESPN even has any programming.
Well, see, here's the thing. Combat sports doesn't have to worry about the big 3, baseball, basketball, and football for a while, because even if Rob Manfred or an Adam Silver and the owners for those different for MLB and for the NBA were to say, okay, we're ready, we got something in place, there's going to be a training camp and to get people reacclimated. They're not going to just come and jump back on the court or in the field.
Right.
They're going to have to kind of, the proposals that have been thrown out there for the NBA require like a little mini camp to get people back into shape. And there hasn't even been a spring training for baseball. So there has to be something like that. So combat sports will at the very least have like the full floor, with the exception of maybe NASCAR and Formula One. They'll have the full floor for about, I would say, 3 months at least.
Yeah. I mean, I heard that, look, Top Rank's expecting to stay in Nevada through August.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's another interesting thing. So guess what else is opening on June 4th?
What's that? The casinos?
Casinos. So not all of them.
Not all of them.
But some of them. And there are going to be some modifications like no buffets.
So
I think Caesars.
I think the ones that douse you with Lysol as you come through the door.
Well, the way it works is that the fight camps are being limited. So Top Rank is basically having 2 or 3 cut men that'll be working for the house.
Yeah, which hotel I know is not going to be open, or no, they might be open.
Tell me.
Circus. You can do whatever you want at Circus. You can come to Circus. They ain't even closed through COVID-19 period, probably. So they can just run everything through Circus because anything goes. Vegas, anybody's ever been to Vegas,
right?
If the least secure hotel anywhere around there is Circus. Everybody knows it. So
hey, listen, for what it's worth.
Yes.
I spent a lot of time in Vegas.
I
would imagine there are far worse viruses going around on any given day.
Yes. And many of them probably pass through Circus.
Right. So look, I'm going to tell you something.
Have you ever been down by Circus?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Don't go down there no more.
Yeah.
I want you to be all right now.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. But listen, I can tell you this, for boxing fans.
Yes.
I mean, these are going to be very competitive fights. There are no easy fights. Now, I give Shakur a little bit of a pass because he is the first one up. A lot of guys that were sought after, a lot of them turned it down because they weren't going to be able to have a proper camp to prepare for Shakur Stevenson. You'd want at least a 7-8 week camp.
Yeah.
And you'd want the proper sparring. You'd want, all the proper preparation. A lot of guys, I mean, look, it is what it is. I mean, a lot of people don't want to take that on a 3 to 4 week notice.
But the way the world is, if Shakur doesn't look A+, nobody's going to give him, like, everything you're saying is 100% accurate and 100% logical.
Right.
But if Shakur comes out here and doesn't give an A+ performance, people are going to rail against him like, oh, he looked like some trash against
right.
That's what's gonna happen. That's what's gonna happen, and it just is the way it is. But yeah, I mean, that's actually some really interesting information though about what's coming up, and it should be exciting, I would think, to boxing fans. I mean, 2 fight shows a week with 5 fights apiece, and the Tuesday show is good fights, but not the greatest. And then the Thursday show, if I'm understanding what you're saying, is when it really, you'll get the better fights. I mean, obviously, don't get it twisted. You're not about to see Lomachenko Lopez on Thursday. That's
no, but we probably will see them in September.
Yeah,
behind closed doors.
It'll be on a Saturday though, probably.
Right, it'll probably be right. But I mean, look, we're going to see some. I'm telling you, you're going to see a lot of guys in make or break. 2 undefeated guys again. I mean, you know what? This is almost like reviving the spirit of USA Tuesday night fights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, that's how I kind of feel this is kind of working out.
I'm excited too because it represents just more combat sports to cover. So that excites me as a journalist. I'm quite sure there's a bunch of journalists who are on furlough who are loving it. The fact that, because this is an indication that they may be able to get back to business. So
yes, although they will not be allowed on property.
No, they won't be allowed on property, but you'll still be able to cover it and not substantiate.
Oh, it's huge.
Yes, it's big time. It's big time. So did you have any other bits or to drop?
Well, yeah, what I want to now, you saw what I sent you. So what is the UFC asking for? I kind of skimmed over the part where my manager's license was being renewed, and then Top Rank asking for boxing.
There's actually they just submitted and they have their hearing. I think it's tomorrow or something, or one of them is tomorrow, where they have, well, not the hearing, they have their first presentation of what their security guidelines are going to be. So they're going to, from what it sounds like to me, and this is just me kind of drawing 2 things together. It sounds to me from what I've seen is that they're going to up the security from what they did in Florida to even a higher level to meet Nevada standards so that they can move forth. And once they get this established, this will just be how they function. And they'll probably be in Nevada for the time being, with the exception of course, Dana already talked about Fight Island going there as soon as next month. So we'll see what happens with that. But I know that if they can secure Nevada and be able to, people don't realize how much this opens up for them to be able to operate in their own facility. They have this edge over pretty much every other combat sports, promotion there is. Top Rank doesn't have a building.
No.
PBC doesn't have a building.
They have a gym.
Right. They don't have.
Although PBC does have the Fox Studios, which could be really good.
Yes, it could be really good. But the Fox Studios weren't built especially to host live events. And the Apex was built especially to host live events. So it's just so much that they can do with this opportunity. So I know why it's such a big deal for them to lock it in. So we'll see what happens, man.
Absolutely.
Let's jump into our second between the rounds. All right, so this is pretty interesting to me, and I'm prepping. I'm not going to spend a lot of time setting this up because I know you and I are going to have a lot to say about this.
Yes.
But Sean Porter had a very interesting take. I guess he was asked about whose career he'd rather have, Floyd Mayweather Jr. or Manny Pacquiao. I mean, I would say by pretty much everybody's standards, these 2 gentlemen are the 2 biggest stars in the sport over the last 30 years. I don't think you'll get many people that will argue that. I think that's pretty much what it is. But Sean Porter had a really interesting take on this. He says, asked, whose career would he rather have between the 2? He says, I'm actually going to go with Manny. I think that even though Manny has taken a lot of punishment, he's been in a lot of wars. He's been in a lot of exciting fights. You know me, I like the war. I like the battle, and I like the excitement. So for those reasons, I would pick Manny. And then on top of that, if you look around the world, more people appreciate Manny. More people respect and adore Manny than dislike him. like Floyd, or then Floyd. I think it meant like Floyd. And the second part of his quote says, even me as the boxer, because just like when I get in the ring and I get people up on their feet, that's what Manny Pacquiao did. And Floyd's been able to do it too, but not as much. I don't think the excitement, it was a different level to the excitement. They're two different fighters. But again, at the end of the day, when Manny Pacquiao goes out and he walks up and down the street, more people are willing to shake his hand and say hi to him than make a mean mug or want to confront him or anything like that. Right. Which I think a lot of people nowadays don't appreciate Floyd Mayweather for everything that he's done for the sport, because it's been overshadowed by some of the things that he's done outside of the sport. So that's a lot there. I'll tell you one thing. We're going to talk about this in championship rounds. Actually, you know what?
And I have a little.
I'm going to save the whole. I'm going to save my whole concept. Yes.
Well, yeah, because
I got some stuff to say.
You know, I have some stuff to say too.
Yes, definitely. So I think it'll be a very interesting conversation. But the table is set. So let's jump into round 3. What time is it?
I'm not going to say fight o'clock. I'm finally watching The Last Dance, so I'm going to say game time.
Yes, it's The Last Dance. Not amazing.
I'm in the 4th episode. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. You know what? I like Michael Jordan more now than I did.
Everybody said that.
I just like this version of Michael Jordan.
Everybody said the same thing. By around about episode 8, though, I started to feel a little bit different. But yeah, but still, everybody said that. Everybody said the same thing. I like him a little bit more now. But yeah, because it's it's not this, I'm trying to be perfect in front of you all the time.
This goes back to our conversation and, where we got, into it about Floyd, and this retrospective Mike is kind of cool.
Yeah. But I would argue, just from what I see from Mike, he's still only showing you a little bit of what he wants to show you.
Right.
So
probably
you ain't getting all the dirt. You ain't getting all the dirt. So let's go into this is Ask the Fight, guys. So we got a question, and it comes from Maya Pugh. Okay. And she says, Brian, who are the top 5 female MMA fighters of all time? Well, that is an awesome question, and I am prepared for you, Miss Pugh. And I'm gonna. I even set up a countdown for you. Set up a countdown for you. So I'm gonna go from 5 to 1, and I know I'm gonna get some flack for this. So I already got my big boy draws on. Okay, they pulled up above my navel. You understand me? Right here. You see, you can't see my employment. It's right here above my navel. Anyway, let's go into number 5. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, former UFC strawweight champion. She is still, in my opinion, the greatest strawweight champion of all time, even though she did lose to Rose Namajunas twice. Second fight was kind of shaky. She also wore one of the nastiest hematomas I've ever seen in the history of combat sports. Yeah, I mean,
it was bad.
If you know Hasim Rahman's hematoma.
Oh, that was nothing. That was a grapefruit. Hers was the whole head.
Yes, she had 2 of them.
She had another forehead.
She looked like John.
She looked like a prosthetic, like an alien.
Like John Hurt in Elephant Man.
Yeah.
That's exactly what she looked like. It was insane. But she still is number 5. Number 4, and here's where the hate comes. Here's where it comes. Number 4 is Ronda Rousey.
Why the hate? People think she's overrated?
Most people will say she's probably should be higher than this. Most people say she should be number 1.
What?
But a lot of people. Oh, not number 1.
I was gonna,
number 2.
Brian,
at least number 2.
I was going to argue she shouldn't be in the top 5.
I won't say that.
No, but what I'm saying is I thought what you meant was that people would argue she shouldn't be in the top 5.
Well, no, I don't know if anybody would argue that. They say she shouldn't be in the top 5. I think that's a little crazy. But I can imagine, because of her stardom and what she accomplished for the sport and what she meant. Because put it like this. Everybody that's on this list, just about, with the exception of one person, wouldn't even exist in this sport without Ronda. So
why do you say that?
Because Ronda made women's mixed martial arts a thing. Okay. And without her, all of these other people that are thriving, she created this lane.
Right. So you're saying the platform where a women's fight could be the main event and sell out a venue and do a pay-per-view.
There wouldn't have even been a female UFC division without Ronda. Dana started it because of Ronda.
Okay.
You know, so they could have fought Strikeforce, which is where they were fighting before,
Right.
and some of the other smaller promotions. But to step up to the major leagues, Ronda paved that way, and without her, they wouldn't exist. And so I give her absolute due for that. But I'm talking about just as a fighter. As a fighter, Ronda has a plethora, had a good amount of holes in her game. But I interviewed her once, and I said this, and I don't think she liked this comparison. But I said, in a lot of ways, you're like the Hoist Gracie of women's mixed martial arts. And she says, how do you mean? I said, because you're so far ahead of your time that by the time the rest of the people catch up with you, it'll be kind of like you're almost done anyway, and you'll already have accomplished everything you're going to accomplish. And it actually turned out to be that's exactly what it was.
Right.
Ronda,
was she offended?
She wasn't really offended, but she felt like comparing herself to Fedor Emelianenko was more appropriate, which I thought was completely not
right
on point. But it is what it is.
Well, before you go number 3, I'm actually watching her documentary now. Have you seen that?
Ronda's?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Check it out. It's good.
It probably is.
Sorry.
But yes, but Ronda, you know, from a stand-up, as her stand-up game, rudimentary, completely. No head movement,
right?
Very little speed,
right.
Just not good, you know.
Right.
But the grapple game was so far ahead of everybody else because most of the ladies weren't as trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They weren't. It was just like Hoist Gracie. When Hoist Gracie was dominating, he was dominating because his ground game was so far ahead of everyone else's. And when that started to catch up, then it changed, and the dominance wasn't quite the same. So that's why she's number 4. Number 3, to me, is, in my opinion, the most underrated fighter in mixed martial arts, and that is Valentina Shevchenko. Valentina Shevchenko is a top 2 or 3 fighter in the world, regardless of gender, in my opinion, right now. She literally has no weaknesses. There is nothing she doesn't do well. And she doesn't get or move the units the way some of the other people do, especially some of the guys. But if Valentina Shevchenko was a man, she'd be Fedor Emelianenko. And she is literally that nasty. And so she is number 3. Number 2, because we're talking about all time, is Chris Cyborg. I ain't going to keep this picture up because the deformation that she created on Holly Holm's face is tough for me to watch. But Chris Cyborg is, I firmly believe that has she ever gotten the opportunity to fight Ronda Rousey, she just smashes her. You know, she smashes her. I think the only person that she just doesn't definitively beat is the person that is number 1 on this list,
of course,
which is pretty easy.
Yes.
And it is the Lioness, Amanda Nunes. She has beaten everybody there is to beat. I mean, who else in any sport, especially an individual sport like this, can say that everybody who is considered a great in this sport, I've already beaten?
Right.
Everybody. Ronda, Cyborg, Valentina Shevchenko twice.
That's a stellar list, Brian.
She's beaten everybody. Yeah. She is the greatest female mixed martial artist of all time. She's one of the
I was saying your list. Your list. Your answer.
I thought you were talking about Amanda's list.
Oh, hers too. I mean,
yes. I mean,
she is the GOAT, right?
She is her status as the GOAT is the most undisputed.
What's her record?
I don't know what her record is. I have to look up what I wonder, what I noticed. MMA records.
I'm going somewhere with this for the
MMA records are so not focused on as much.
Using this for some ammo in my
I know what you're.
Championship round, baby.
I know where you're gonna go. 19-4. She's
okay. She's the GOAT. 19-4.
She is the GOAT.
Okay. Who beat her?
The last time she lost was Kat Zingano, and that was in September 2014.
And she's not even on your list.
She's not on my list. She could have been.
Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
Injuries kept her off.
Okay.
And she also, her husband committed suicide, which totally threw everything off on top of the injuries. So Kat Zingano and Ronda Rousey were on this collision course. They finally fought. Kat Zingano made a horrible error in the first 15 seconds of the fight, got tapped out. Yeah. Then she tore her knee up, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
It was downhill from there. But yeah.
Okay, well, that's a good list, man. That was actually I think Maya's going to be very happy with that answer. I hope she's tuned in right now.
I hope she is as well.
Now, did you answer her in her comment?
I didn't, because I feel like that's kind of
tell her.
Point.
Just say, hey, you better be watching.
You better be watching. You better be watching. You better be watching.
Excellent question.
Yes, it was a fantastic question. So with that said, let's jump into our championship rounds. All right. Mike Tyson, man. Come on, look. Wanderlei Silva. I mean, because I got it. I mean, we talked about bare knuckle fighting championship offered him $20 million.
Yes.
And now president of bare knuckle, David Feldman, has said that he's willing to up that offer. And he threw out the axe murderer, Wanderlei Silva, as a potential opponent. Also, Tito Ortiz saying that he wants some.
Yeah.
Come on. What do you think? What are you making of this?
I think I made a point last week saying, don't really want to see Mike fight. The thing that I love the most about all of this is that Mike, as a pop culture icon, is kind of back in the picture.
He is.
I like seeing the transformation of him getting back in shape. It's like this intersection of mental health and physical health. I finally feel when I listen to him and watch him that he's in a good place. You know what I mean?
Right.
Genuinely.
I can dig it.
Do I want to see him fight? Not really. You know what? I've seen him fight.
Yeah.
So I've seen that. We've all, those of us that were privileged to come up and watch him as he came up in his prime. I got to spend a lot of time around him personally and watch him fight in person when I still feel he was in his prime. So look, people make mistakes, people go through troubles, but I think Mike's completely on the rebound and seems to be in a good place. Now, does he need to fight? Absolutely not, unless he needs the money. Do I want to see a 53-year-old Mike Tyson fighting a Tito Ortiz in a boxing match? No. A bare knuckle match, maybe. That I'd like to see. Because here's the thing. I don't want to see Mike fight again in a boxing match. I'd like to see him fight in a bare knuckle match where the fight can't go beyond 10 minutes, 5 2-minute rounds. And I'd like them to fight someone his own age, if he wants to do this. I just don't know if I'm a fan of 53-year-old men getting hit in the head. That's kind of what I think. I just don't know if that's, something I want to see. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I'd want to see, what I'd like to see? So far, we've seen him doing these 30-second, high-energy shadow boxing and mitt work, in which he seemed off balance and out of breath. But anyway, what I'm saying is I'd like to see him spar 4 rounds. Just see if he, if he's capable of doing, a 12-minute fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Honestly, my take on this is I think we're missing what the real story is here.
Okay, tell me.
The real story, you said it, actually.
Okay.
We're looking for this redemption story based on him getting in the ring and reminding us and showing us, still got it, can still knock a guy out because it still got power. That's not the redemption story. We're missing our part to sing along in this redemption song. The redemption song is he's 53 years old and he's in that kind of shape. That is where the inspiration is. The inspiration is if you're somewhere 53 years old and you don't look like that, you can look at him and go, man, Mike got himself in shape. I can get myself in shape. Yeah. Maybe I won't look like Mike Tyson because I'm not blessed to be the kind of athlete that he is, but I can look, maybe my transformation can be somewhere near as drastic as his was. My ceiling for my level of fitness might not be as high as his, but that's where the inspiration is. I think Mike fighting again, while I'm not going to lie and say I won't watch it, but Mike fighting again to me pollutes what is right now a feel-good story. The
Right.
feel-good story is Mike got himself in great shape. He's earning, for these different appearances. He's commanding these different types of offers. And I think that's the feel-good aspect of it. For me, I would love to see Mike pop out, do a couple more cameos, jump up like he gonna scare somebody here or there, go home with $1.5 million for an hour appearance.
Right.
That's what I would look, because I want to see him continue to eat and continue to be better and do well. I don't need to see him punch another person. I saw him punch a bunch of people.
Right.
So it's cool, and I don't know his financial situation. Nobody does except for him and his people that are involved. So I don't know what he needs or doesn't need. I know $20 million probably sounds good to just about anybody, and somebody saying they're willing to go even higher than that sounds pretty freaking good too.
Right.
But I hope that he's not at a place where he needs that and he has to make that sacrifice to get it. Doing
that.
And the other thing of it was that kind of gets me is I literally heard Mike say on more than one occasion, I don't like fighting anymore.
Right.
I don't want nobody fighting that don't want to be fighting.
Right. That's defined him for so many years.
Yeah.
But
fans are so selfish, man. They're so selfish because they all in all these different comment sections, ours included, talking about, yeah, Mike, punch him hard. Throw some punches, Mike. Yes.
Yeah.
But nobody's thinking about how this is going to affect him. They just want to have their own dopamine effect from getting put into some sort of pugilistic time machine.
Exactly.
So you can see what you saw in 1991.
Because as long as he looks the part.
Yes.
Then if he's down, as ripped as he can be.
Yes.
Clean shaved.
Yes.
The haircut comes back if he can do it, right? Yeah. With the part, right?
Probably can.
People just want to see, they don't even care about, and they just want to see him hit somebody and someone go down.
Yes. And it's just, but they're not taking into consideration that it could be the other way around.
Right.
And I don't need to see Mike Tyson look for his mouthpiece again. I don't never need to see that again.
Right.
So
or put his hand out for the ref to help him up.
Right. Hey, dog.
Can you help me up here?
Help your boy out.
That's how it works.
I slipped. I don't need that. I don't need to see it. So it is what it is. All right. So let's look at our second championship round. And this one is, this is so.
So you and I, we're going to agree to disagree. I'll go first, and then I'll just let you go, but I'll make my points.
Go ahead.
Okay. So we can agree to disagree. I agree with Sean Porter. Mm-hmm. If you asked me, would I rather have had Manny Pacquiao's career or Floyd Mayweather's career, I would choose Manny Pacquiao. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing, and I'm paraphrasing here, because Steve Kim tweeted about it saying, paraphrasing once again, that he found it to be very refreshing that Sean would, publicly say this and his position on that. So then Leonard Ellerby responded to Steve's tweet, paraphrasing once again because I don't remember the tweet word for word, but it was basically saying, well, I'd pick the guy that went undefeated with unblemished record and retired with all his faculties. So my whole thing is this. Is Leonard insinuating that Manny doesn't have all of his faculties? Number one, because that wasn't part of the conversation. Number two, just based on your GOAT reference about Amanda Nunes and having 4 losses, who says that you can't lose and be the GOAT? Muhammad Ali, how many losses did he have?
What was it, 5?
Okay.
4 or 5. But
isn't he still arguably the GOAT?
Arguably the GOAT.
Okay. So, look, the good news is we can all agree to disagree and have our opinions. My whole thing is this. When you look at the overall body of work, Manny Pacquiao did something that no other fighter probably will ever do, and Floyd never did and never will do, which is he won world championships in 8 different weight divisions. He is far more humanitarian than Floyd Mayweather Jr. is, unless there's something we don't know, right? We know what Manny has done. He's a senator, probably is going to be president of his country. Remember, the comment from Sean was about career. Whose career would you? I think Manny took more risks, and I think that taking those risks along the way they weren't as carefully navigated to avoid certain potential losses. I think he took risks which put him in a position to achieve greatness with 8 different weight classes. In addition, it also put him at risk to lose. He's maintained himself as a gentleman. He lost to Floyd. He lost to Floyd. It's still my opinion that fight takes place 5 years earlier. It could be a different story. Could be. Doesn't mean it would have been. Floyd might have beat him 5 years early, but I think it dragged on. So, look, I'm going to keep it short. I agree with Sean. I mean, I can understand why someone would say, oh, no, that it was Sean's opinion. I agree with Sean. If you say to me, whose career would I have rather have, I would pick Manny, just the overall complete body of work. Losses included, the entire journey, what he's also done for the sport as an ambassador worldwide. So that's, and just what I think he stands for. So that's my take on it. I know you probably disagree, and look, it's perfectly cool. I would love to hear your reasons why.
Well, here's the thing. What I think is being mixed up in this whole conversation is it sounds to me like you and Sean are kind of more describing the person that you like the most rather than the career that you rather have. And I totally understand that, because put it like this, I love Sean. Sean's one of my favorite fighters. Just a lot of it has to do with the way he carries himself. He's such a gentleman. The most misbehaved moment that I've ever seen Sean Porter have was when the decision was read when he lost to Kell Brook. It was a really close decision, and you could tell it just hurt him to his soul that he lost that fight. And there was nothing inappropriate about the moment, but that's about as bad as he gets in front of a camera for Sean Porter.
It's a very nice guy.
So this is just who this, how this guy is. So I love Sean Porter, right? I love Manny Pacquiao. He is literally, him, Andre Ward. These are like, beyond the skill level, just in terms of just people that in combat sports that I just really dig their personality, their vibe, the way they carry. I love these guys. But that doesn't mean that from a career standpoint, I would rather have a guy's career who has taken L's, who has taken knockout losses, compared to a guy who has never been defeated, never been knocked out, very rarely been hit hard. And so, because I'm looking at this from a human standpoint, and I look at it like this: if Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao were, if I had to say, I got a son that's going through boxing, which career would I rather have had my son experience? And there is no way in the world I would want my son to get punched in the face the way Manny Pacquiao got punched in the face by Juan Manuel Marquez. There's no way in the world I would want to see my son take the knockout loss to Eric Morales the way he took. There's no way in the world I want to see my son take the knockout loss that Manny took to Boonsai Sangsarat way back in 1999, which a lot of people don't realize that he was knocked out there. He was also knocked out in 96 by Rustico Torrecampo. So we're talking about KO losses. And when Manny, because of the way Manny fights, when Manny gets knocked out, there ain't no question. I mean,
he's susceptible jumping in there.
He get knocked all the way out, right? It ain't no question. So
all the way out.
All the way out.
Like night.
Both eyes closed,
good night
type thing,
Right.
So,
like snoring.
Right. So what I'm saying is, there is no way in the world I can say that I would rather be that than a guy who has never lost. And I don't know what their bank accounts are set up like. I don't. I know it appears that Floyd has taken in more money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how he has managed it is a totally different story. Now, I think I would rather be Manny Pacquiao from a bank account standpoint, because I think even though Floyd may have made a little bit more money, it appears to me Manny probably got more of his left.
You know what?
You never know.
Yeah, but to your point, Brian, and listen, there's no right or wrong answer to this.
Yeah,
this is purely depending on who you are and what you value.
Yeah, I mean, but honestly, I really think
right
there is nobody in the world faced with the situation.
Mm-hmm.
You say, all right, go out here. This guy's going to knock you out unconscious tonight. Okay. So, or you can be this guy here who's not going to get hit. Which one do you want to be?
But that's okay.
Nobody's going to say it. I want Juan, I want Marquez.
But that's just one. That's just one criteria of measuring the career.
That right there is the line.
Well, for you,
but I suggest that it's the line for everybody. But
you're just
in that situation.
I'm part of the world. It's not.
But
for me,
when you're
not
in
everybody.
that situation, you can say that now. But if you're faced with the situation, which is what Sean is talking about, and they're saying, look, you're going to get knocked out. Who's going to choose that at the point when you're saying, here's the punch, it's coming?
Fighters fight to achieve greatness. Fight. I'm just saying, fighters fight to. This is part of the sport. Now, listen. What I'm going to say is, I don't know where it became unacceptable along the way to lose a fight.
It's not even about that.
But what's it about? You're talking about one criteria about suffering KO losses.
Right. Not suffering KO losses because of how humiliating it could be. Suffering KO losses, like, who wants to get punched in the face and get knocked out? Just from a pure human standpoint.
But what does this have to do with whose career you would rather? But I'm just saying, like,
part of his career and not part of Floyd's. That's why. That's an easy comparison.
But that's just see. But in this sport,
that is one of the major differences here. One of the major differences is one guy's been knocked out 3 times. Do you want to get knocked out?
But that's not what Sean's basing his response on. I mean, this is
what he's basing his response on is stuff that's really doesn't have anything to do. Like, he's saying Floyd stuff he's done outside the ring,
but that's part of your career.
I mean,
listen, you gotta take a little step back.
You gotta be careful when you start doing that stuff.
Why?
Even if you're as neat and clean as Sean has been. Even when you're as neat and clean as, there's a big, huge gap between who Sean Porter is and who Floyd has demonstrated himself to be. We both see that. We both know that. But you do understand. Be careful when you start bringing up stuff about what people have done, and you're using that as a way to put one person above another person. You got to be careful with that, because your life ain't over yet.
Yeah, but Brian, I'm just saying that you have to look at. We've seen in other sports, whether it's been football, basketball, guys have been fantastic on the field and on the court, and they've had some issues outside of the sport, which tarnishes the whole career. We've seen it happen to doctors and lawyers and entertainers.
You say the same thing about Manny. Manny had this whole thing. We almost lost his marriage because he was cheating on his wife so much and all that. Right. So now we quantifying sins.
No, listen, who's talking about sins?
We're
talking about career. No. What I'm saying is this. But see, it's the overall career. Right. Do you believe in redemption too?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's all of it. So what I'm saying is I don't think there's a right answer. I don't think anyone's right or anyone's wrong.
I think that.
But you're telling me you're trying to pin this all on KO losses.
No, I'm not trying to pin it all on. I'm saying that is a major part, and I'm saying that I'm thinking that it sounds as though you're blowing that off. And
I'm not blowing it off. It's one component of a career.
It doesn't matter because the punch's not coming at you right now.
It's one component of an entire body of work.
It's a very big component.
Listen, let me ask you something. Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. Does it not make him is he still one of the greatest quarterbacks and had a great career in football?
He had a great career.
I'm just saying,
not one of the greatest though. And it's because he didn't win a Super Bowl.
Based on, remember, it takes a team to win a Super Bowl.
It absolutely takes a team to win the Super Bowl.
Remember something, Brian. Brian, remember something. Brian.
Somebody that's 6.
Remember something. Brian, are you ready?
Yes.
Organizations win championships.
Yes. Jerry said that, and that was just as ridiculous now as it was when he said it.
But no, look, it's listen. The great thing about our championship rounds is that we're going to have guys in the chat right now that feel one way or another.
Yes.
So I'm curious to see where our Sean Singletaries and our BKs and who am I missing?
Ness Mendoza, Think Cap. Yeah, all our guys in there.
Even the new folks that are in there today.
Even our lurkers who never say anything but watch.
Right.
Every show has them. Every show has them. Yeah, it's just, for me, man, it's just that's a big thing. That's a big thing, taking punishment. Right. And you said something about Leonard Ellerbe. Who says that Manny Pacquiao doesn't have all his faculties?
No, I'm just saying that was brought into the thing. I don't know
where that because that's part of his career. It is. How is that not part of his career? If he incurred this damage during his career, and we're talking about how Manny can walk down the street and people can shake his hand and people will like him and all this kind of stuff. This is what Sean's saying.
But what I'm saying is, what about listen, I get it. Remember, it's all encompassing. You know what I'm saying? That's from his point of view.
How is what Leonard's saying not all encompassing?
But I don't understand because he was using it as if to say, and has all of his faculties.
And has all his faculties. Meaning you didn't get knocked unconscious 3 times.
Manny has all of his faculties too.
How do we know that?
How do I know? Because I know he's been tested. He's been extensively tested, and he's still completely functional, operating and reading.
Okay, but he's not in the latter stages of his life yet. And I'm not putting or wishing anything on anybody, but I'm saying, do you think the same reason that you said, hey, I don't want to see Mike Tyson take punches in the head as a 53?
Floyd had one heck of a chin, Brian.
I understand that, but
he took some hard shots.
Nobody in the world who would say that Floyd has taken as much punishment in the ring as Manny.
I don't know.
Come on, man.
I don't know. I mean, how could you make that? What are we going to do? Like match up CAT scans?
Are you kidding me? I said, no. I said, as much damage in the ring.
I don't know. That's neither of us know that.
Have you ever seen Floyd lay down on his face, sleep?
You listen, can I tell you something?
With his shorts flipping and fluttering.
Can I tell you something? Listen to me. And this is for real. Okay?
I'm for real.
Sometimes, and I mean this is not a joke. It's not an excuse. Sometimes it's better to suffer the short-term KO loss, then take that constant punishment over 10 or 12 rounds. So what I'm saying is you can't judge
constant punishment over 10
what I'm saying is you can, listen, Floyd's also had one heck of a chin. He might have
you seen his chin tested like that?
I've seen his chin tested.
We've seen his chin tested. Shot, boom, Shane Mosley. One shot, chop Corley. One shot, Maidana.
Listen, there's everything that's into account with guys getting tested and guys potentially incurring damage, whether it's in sparring, whether it's in fights themselves. Remember, the man still had 50 professional fights. And every single one of those fights, listen, Floyd's had an extensive career. Yes. I mean, from the amateurs all the way up. I mean, fantastic.
Manny has had 71 fights.
We're not talking about whether Floyd's boxing career was good or not. We already know.
And nobody's saying that. I'm not making that argument at all.
Everything but you keep going back to getting knocked out. I think someone's going to agree with me.
Talking about career, and that's an important thing.
It's one component.
Because at the end of the day with boxers, one of the main things is when you leave this game, how much do you still have when you're done? That's why this is so important.
So
that's why you have to put so much weight on
I have an idea. For our next show, I have an idea. So you know how we did our build your perfect fighter? Why don't we do build your perfect career and put criteria that would determine how a fighter leaves with the better career? Seriously. And you can have KO losses as one criteria.
That doesn't even it's not.
Does that make you happy? It could be the top of your list.
It doesn't say, it's not even a segment. It's 50-0 with 50 knockouts and I never got punched.
You just said 50 knockouts.
That's 50-0 with 50 knockouts and I never got punched. That's the perfect career.
Okay.
I knocked out everybody in 5 seconds.
All right.
Ben Askren. That's the perfect career. If you ask me as a fighter, if I was a fighter, what would I want?
Yeah.
I don't, you know, I don't need that. I mean, there is something to value, obviously, from being in a war.
Everybody has their own ideas.
You can see the exchange. But like I said, if you ask these people, which one would they rather their son have? Because then you would shave off all the macho. Then you shave off all of that. You shave off all of the testosterone. And now we start talking about something that you care about.
Well, look,
and that you
I have three boys.
Protect.
I have three boys.
And I don't think that anybody would say, if I had to choose how my son's career was going to go, I'd prefer him get knocked out 3 times rather than be 50-0 and not get knocked out.
I have 3 boys.
So you would rather have your son.
If you ask me whose career,
right? I didn't say whose lifestyle. I said career.
Career. I understand.
Yes.
I would still choose Manny Pacquiao.
Okay.
Even with some of the imperfections, I'd choose Manny Pacquiao. And you know what? That's just my opinion.
Yeah, it is.
I know you choose Floyd.
I would absolutely choose Floyd, but I would say I would like you to carry yourself more like Manny after 30. But as far as what you do in your boxing career, absolutely Floyd, because you didn't take that much punishment, you never lost, and that's great. And that's what a career is. All this other stuff,
but
walking down the street and shaking fans and all this kind of stuff.
It's all part of it. It's how people.
Well, then so too is the damage you take afterwards. That's part of it too.
Every aspect of a person's career is looked into.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? Even the things that happen outside the ring, for good or for bad.
Okay.
And no one's perfect.
Nope, nobody's perfect. So I don't know why we're talking about what Sean was talking about, overshadowing stuff.
It was a good comment. I mean, it was an interesting take.
It definitely
it was interesting. I found it to be not just because I agree with him, but just because
it was refreshing. The honesty
from a fighter's perspective, and it doesn't mean that he doesn't respect Floyd or think that Floyd. It just means that I think that Sean would love to be looked at maybe the way people look at Manny. That's all. That's his perception.
I understand that. Manny's an awesome dude and an absolute hero. Floyd's not.
No, but listen, once again, you know, there's private Floyd and public Floyd. Floyd was an unbelievable fighter who was a great self-promoter and a great brander and a great marketer. I mean, there's so many undeniable things. Like I said, we're not talking about the greatness of either of them. No, you know what I mean? So, I mean, look, it becomes personal. I guess it just becomes how we all see ourselves too, right? Yeah. And when, like you said, what we value more in the equation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I prefer not to get knocked out, but but that's just me. I don't.
And I prefer not to take a 12-round beating. And now you're going to say, well, when did he take a 12-round beating? I'm just saying
he never did. So
saying.
So it's completely irrelevant.
There are guys that had great chins.
But we talking about Floyd.
Listen.
When we talking about Floyd.
Like I said, if Floyd could do what Jordan just did with The Last Dance 25 years from now or 20 years from now, I think we'll have a really cool perspective, which could be a different perspective, but we can go on and on and on.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Not 25, only 15.
Yeah, 15. Okay. Yeah. Still, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would be. Would be awesome. All right, that's all that we have for you today. I'm tired of telling Peter why he's wrong.
But you got to call me your man, for my man, Peter Kahn.
No, I'm not, because you're wrong, and you only get to be that when you're not wrong. So, so for my man, Peter Kahn, this is Brian Mazique. I appreciate you watching. As always, God bless and peace.